Racehub is back, and you know, we make promises on this show, and we keep them. We told you Denny Hamlin would be here, and here he is. Thanks for coming by. It's been a while since you've been in studio with us.
I haven't been in this one. This is elaborate. This is pretty nice.
We like to say it's
upgraded.
Denny time today.
That's right.
We upgraded. That's right.
Shirt on for this one, people.
We got some new sponsorships, so we upgraded our studio since the last time you were here. I could introduce you so many ways, and later we're going to talk about Denny, the owner, and Denny, the Daytona 500 champion on 3 different occasions. But let's start out and just talk about Denny, the driver, and what happened Sunday evening in Los Angeles with the clash.
Yeah, it didn't end as well as I hoped, both from the ownership and the driver standpoint. One was because of my driver, probably, but it was entertaining for sure. You could say that. But you know, the reason we go out there is to really bring the racing to a group of people that don't necessarily get to see a lot of racing. We can find a short track anywhere here on the East Coast, but we go out there to LA to bring the racing to the people in the city, and I think we really accomplished that.
You know, one observation, Denny, and you know, we're probably comparing apples and oranges, because we went there a year ago. No driver had really any information about the car. Teams had very little information. But to me, one of the biggest turnarounds from last year to this year was the Toyota camp. Kyle Busch, the 18, he had a great run last year, finished second, sat on the pole. You were fighting to stay on the lead lap by lap 20. Truex had to use a provisional. One of your 23-11 teams didn't even make the big show. What do you think was the big difference? I realize a lot has went under the bridge with this car.
I think we fixed a lot of our short track issues at Martinsville during the test. We were, as you know, during the Martinsville 1 race last year, I was probably 3 to 4 laps down legitimately. We had that happen a few years ago and then dominated the fall race. We did the same thing this past year with this next-gen car. We were out to lunch on short tracks until we had that test, and then once we did, we dialed it in, and obviously we dominated the Martinsville race in the fall, and then the Toyotas really kind of figured it out again. It seemed like it applied to what we had at the Clash.
So Denny, I was invited one time by you to run the short track showdown, whatever it's called, at some little track in Manassas or something like that.
Yeah, at Southside Speedway.
Southside Speedway. Pretty small place. I remember running that race and knocking the wall down on the back straightaway, pop rivets hanging out or bolts hanging out. But I'm thinking about the Clash, and I'm sitting here going, okay, wait a minute. How tough is this track to drive? I've driven at Bowman Gray, but not in a big stock car. But watching you guys run, just how critical is it, and how in the world do you get around that place without hitting each other? Oh, by the way, you did hit each other.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Southside Speedway is a super speedway compared to what we raced there in LA. So, no, you know,
downshifting everything, right?
Yeah, it's 3/8 of a mile. It's not quite as small as the Clash at the Coliseum racetrack, but it is very similar. Southside Speedway's got really tight corners, and the Clash, I mean, you can't even really see around the corner when you're turning, and a lot of times you run out of arm because you don't have enough steering wheel you can get, but it's interesting. It is hard to pass. That's why I got a lot of guys are kind of running into each other. But man, once I found out that the racing is a lot different in the top 6 than it is in the back 6. Back there, it's everyone just kind of throws out, you know, whatever their code was. They just say, all right, well, forget that. You know, we'll deal with it later.
I love what you said, though, I think, in an interview. I don't even know who to be mad at.
Yeah, right.
Well, the thing about it, Mike Joy put it great. Yeah. He said it's like croquet. This car gets into this car gets into that car. It's like they just keep getting into each other.
And when the race is over, right, there's so many people that plowed into each other. You're thinking, okay, well, where's the fight at? And I get out of my car, and I got one arm, you know, all right, well, surely someone's coming from this side or that, because I'm sure I caused the wreck, but where's the guys that wrecked me? And, you know, and so everyone just kind of looked around, staring at each other. Couldn't figure out who to, you know, William Byron right here. I pinned him up against the wall after the race because I was like, dude, why'd you spin me out after the crash? He's like, Bud, Harvick got pissed at me and spun me out. And he's like, but I got hit by Noah. So he's like, everyone's mad at the wrong person.
Yeah.
It's a KO event.
What's the overall feel, number one, of stadium racing? Because the setting there is so unique in comparison to anything else we do on the schedule. And with that, what should the future of the Clash be from your perspective?
I mean, that's a really tough question. I personally believe it should be the Clash, the pole winners. I think if you took the field and narrowed it down a little bit to the winners. Now, listen, it might be 12 one year, it might be 20 the next, right? We just have to deal with that. That's the way they used to do it. But I know you can't always go back, and there's a lot of reason we've expanded the field over times, but I think that track is a little too small for the 26 cars. I mean, we had, what was it, 3 or 4 less last year?
Had 4 less. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
those added cars make a huge difference, and I think if you just thinned it down 4 or 5 more spots, you'd probably have a whole lot cleaner racing.
So put your owner's hat on, Denny, all the way to Los Angeles, and a big market, a lot of eyeballs on it, and one of your 2311 teams not able to participate. Are you okay with that?
Well, I don't. That's why I think you should know that when you're going there, you're racing. Like RFK, it's very tough for them, right? 2 years in a row to spend the money, go out there, and then, I don't know what they got coming back. But I think that's why you either prepare for it or you don't. That part of it is tough. But also, we saw some great entertainment and racing for people battling to get into the field. So I'm not sure how much of that you want to take away as well.
Maybe we jumped the fence with adding the 4 cars. Maybe that was the deal.
Could have been.
Could this format ever be utilized for a points-paying race where we have the heat races, the last chance qualifier, and then the main event where not everybody is involved? Could you do a format that way and make it into a points-paying race?
Yeah, I mean, what do you do for the cars that miss it, right? Do they all get the same amount of points, or is it staggered? The first to miss it gets 10, and then down to 1 if you finish last in the last chance qualifier. I do think that there's an element to that. I think it would be tough sell on the ownership side, simply because we have sponsors that really need us out on that racetrack. I like it for the exhibition style. I think that even in the All-Star race, I think we should whittle the field down to a certain field. You just get cleaner racing, I think, at that point. And you don't have to focus on so much chaos. I mean, surely, the people want to see us running green flag laps, right? I mean, running on a caution like we were was tough even from my seat. So I think I don't know the perfect answer to it, but I do think this type of format can be used more. I don't know how you implement it in a points race.
It's a good start to 2023 for Joe Gibbs Racing. I mean, Larry mentioned it. Your teammate Martin Truex Jr. wins the Clash at the Coliseum. That's outstanding. But changing dynamics at JGR. Kyle Busch, the 2-time champion, dynamic personality is gone. Enter the rookie Ty Gibbs. How are things right now over in Huntersville, North Carolina?
It's good. I mean, I think that Christopher Bell is really doing a good job of showing his talents, and he's really taken the next step over the last few years. So I think Joe Gibbs Racing's in good hands, both in the short term with me and Martin still there, and in the long term with Christopher and Ty. I mean, they've got talent. People get so used to the Joe Gibbs Racing when they had 4 Hall of Famers on there at one time, and they were just all guys that won 4 or 5 races each. This is a new time, right? Hendrick went through the same rebuilding process with their team, and now you see it showing fruit in this time. So I think that it will just go through a transition, but certainly I believe that we will make sure that we take care of Ty, take care of Christopher as they're starting to learn things, because I got to work with Ty. He was in my bus every week when he drove for me, just asking questions. And I feel like, I told Coy and Joe that, I'll take care of him, make sure he's prepared to get in the Cup Series next year.
I was going to ask a question about Ty. It's like, he's not really a rookie. He ran for you in the Cup Series, filling in for Kurt. Obviously winning the Xfinity Championship and all that stuff. But what are your expectations out of Ty? I mean, you see how his work ethic is and how he goes through things. And, how is it going to be? How hard do you think it will be? Or do you think he's got short track better, speedway better? What do you think you see him performing over the next 36 races in a year?
Just objectively looking, I would say he's got a little bit of work to do on the super speedways. Just watching some Xfinity races, we can certainly help with that. I think the short tracks, our cars, should be quite a bit better than what they were last year, hopefully, crossing our fingers. And he's got some great short track racers. Martin Truex obviously winning the Clash, and he's been one of the best short track racers, in my opinion, over the last few years. So I think that my expectations for him is probably to contend for a playoff spot. I think it will be tough if he doesn't win to get in, but it's just so hard. He's so young. We have to really be patient with some of these young guys. Some of the best ones, Chase Elliott and these guys, didn't hit their stride till 3-4 years in, and 25 years old. He's 20, right?
Yeah.
So let's just all be patient and not try to compare him to who he's stepping in for. Yeah.
Denny, you probably had one of the most weirdest seasons last year that I've witnessed. If I hadn't watched the races and somebody just showed me your box scores, I'd go, what in the world happened here? I mean, you could not find a top 10 in the early going, but you won those 2 races. You won Richmond, came back and won the Coke 600 at Charlotte. But I'm telling you what, in the playoffs, I know you didn't win, but you guys were absolute money. What's the conversations been with you and Chris Gabehart during the offseason?
Well, we're good correctors. I think that we're a good team when we do show up and we go to Martinsville and we're 4 laps down. I think he understands, well, I didn't certainly lose my talent at that track in a matter of a few months. He's got to work on things. And so we trust each other. He trusts my feedback, and I trust that if he tells me to go out there and run the car in reverse for 2 laps around the racetrack, I'm not going to question why. I'm sure he's got a reason for it. So I think that trust within each other is why I think we're successful, and that has what made our results last year go from really bad at the beginning when we were trying to figure out the next gen car to really good at the end. So I think that that's a relationship that doesn't come around too often, and certainly we struck up one.
Yeah, you've won with every crew chief you've been with, but honestly, going into your 5th year with Chris, when I listen to him on the radio and I watch you too, it's a really good combination.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, they go to the championship 4 like every year with multiple races.
And they won their first time out the Daytona 500.
That's right. I would say it's all coming together. As we know, you're more than just a racer. You love the stick and ball sports, and this weekend, huge game on Fox. It's the Super Bowl, the Chiefs, the Eagles. Who do you like on Sunday?
I will dive into the stats and the analytics, and I'll kind of compare matchups, and I'll read a lot of articles, but my first instinct is to take the Eagles simply because most people, I believe, will take the Chiefs, and I believe that the public is not always correct. I like to be on the casino side when it comes to placing a wager, but I just think the Eagles are the most well-rounded team.
We are pulling for the Eagles for one reason only.
Okay.